Joining us now, Brent Welder. He ran in Kansas' 3rd district in a spirited race. He's, of course, deeply progressive. We supported him throughout. He's a Young Turks member, Wolfpack volunteer, Bernie Sanders delegate. Now, as it turned out, he did not prevail, but he's back on the show, which I love. He's going to tell us about his new plans, but we want to talk about that election a little bit first as well. Brent, welcome back, brother.
Hey, how's it going? Good to see you.
All right. So first, let's talk about the voting issues. So
Yes.
Kansas 3rd District has Johnson County in it. Johnson County at 9 p.m. local time stopped counting and said there was a computer glitch. And that computer glitch lasted until 5:50 in the morning. We sent a reporter, the Young Turks did, to look into all of this. And then they came out with a little bit of a different vote. I don't know about your case, but certainly for Kobach was down 13 points. And then when the glitch was fixed, he had won the county. So, Brent, are you planning to do anything about that vote and verifying it in any way in Johnson County?
Well, so yes, I am meeting with election protection experts, meeting with the party. Now, I want to make clear from the beginning, from the outset of this interview, I'm not saying that, I have evidence that our vote total for my race would change in any significant way. And I am supporting Sharice Davids, our nominee, who is significantly better than Kevin Yoder. But, there was serious problems. And it's been, I think TYT did the most extensive coverage, sending an investigative reporter out here to report on this. The Kansas City Star and some other local media outlets have also looked into it, and it wasn't an isolated incident. There has been significant issues with the same elections board in the past. Johnson County is the largest population of any county in the state, and what it comes down to is that Chris Kobach, who was running or is running for governor, is the Secretary of State and appointed the elections official in Johnson County, who also happened to be the former chairman of the Republican Party there. And, at the time before the glitch, Kobach was losing the election, and then several hours go by all night, and then the next morning when they release the results, all of a sudden Kobach is winning the election statewide. And there's been significant issues with that. In our race, I was ahead by, I think it was 8 points at the time of the glitch. And then, several hours go by and there's no results. And then all of a sudden we lose by a few points. And it was interesting because I won Wyandotte County by 23 points, which is the other major county in the district. And then in Johnson County, I was down by about 4 points or so with the results coming in. Then after the glitch, I was down by 15. Now, I have no idea why that is. We're looking into it. You guys have looked into it. I've been meeting with experts about that, but I do think I owe it to my supporters and my donors and volunteers and activists and frankly, the voters in the district to get to the bottom of it so we make sure that these kind of problems don't happen in the future. Obviously, there's an extremely important election coming up in November, and we just want to make sure that we fully understand what happened before so that we can fix it moving forward and make sure we have election protection in place for that.
Look, I don't think we have to bother explaining it, but I will. So first of all, of course, the integrity of every election is paramount. But if they have another computer glitch when Sharice Davids is running against Yoder and all of a sudden Yoder is winning, that would be disastrous. So it's so important to make sure that those machines are working properly.
And let me be clear, I do not trust Secretary of State Kobach, and I do not trust this election official that he has appointed to be in charge of the elections there. I do not trust them at all. In fact, if there's any person that I trust the least when it comes to voting issues in the country, it's probably Chris Kobach, who is Donald Trump's right-hand man when it comes to election issues. So for the party and for us not to look into what happened so that we make sure that mistakes don't happen again in the future would be insane.
So, Brent, one last thing about that. So, what are your options? Have you, I don't know what level of conversation you've already had, but how can anyone verify the vote, but especially a candidate like yourself that was running in that race in that county?
So our particular race, it was a 3-point margin. An automatic recount or a free recount at least is triggered if it's only 0.5% or less. And just to be clear, like I said at the beginning, I am not contesting the results of my election. What I'm wanting to do right now is get to the bottom of exactly what problems existed at the time, so that we can make sure that those don't happen again. And there's limited options, because what happens, and this was reported by TYT as well, that this doesn't just happen here. It's happened in Georgia. It's happened in other problem areas of the country. Is that the election happens. There's obviously significant problems. The election officials here have admitted that there was significant problems, and then especially if it happens in a primary, everybody just kind of turns to look away from it, and nothing ever gets done, and nothing ever gets looked into, and nothing ever gets fixed. So the first step is to figure out exactly what happened, because I don't think that has been clear. And then the next step is I'm working with the party to make sure that in November and moving forward that there is really serious election protection, including election protection poll workers at every polling place, and figuring out exactly what it is we need to do to make sure this doesn't happen again.
All right, so then let's talk about the substance of the race. So, I was certain that you were going to win, and I, talked to the audience about, hey, look, I was wrong about that. And the reason I was certain, though, was because you had an amazing number of volunteers. You had done an incredible job of raising money, all from small donors, and you ran what appeared to be an incredible campaign. So I thought that would do it. So what happened? How did you wind up losing that race? It was super tight, but still, obviously.
Right. Mm-hmm. So I am in one of 24 districts in the country that is held by a Republican congressman that Hillary Clinton won. It's these type of districts that are extremely highly contested, and also so important for the progressive movement, because if we're going to build a governing majority, we need to win these seats. And all too often, generally, they're held either by Republicans or occasionally by Democrats that vote like Republicans. When I started this campaign in this seat, no one had ever seen someone running the type of progressive grassroots campaign that we were running. But unfortunately, what has happened throughout this election cycle, and not just here, but in other districts like this highly contested district, is that when a progressive runs, the establishment goes after them fiercely, goes after this seat. And, obviously I ran from day one on not accepting corporate PAC money. We had 25,000 people that donated individual donations online. But ultimately, there was $1 million in dark money spent in our election in the last 3 weeks. And we ended up losing by only 3%. And, it's these districts where progressives are contested so fiercely in both the primary and the general election. And what ended up happening here was that the dark money came in and ended up ruling the day at the very last minute. That brings me to one of the reasons I wanted to come on tonight was obviously, we're just getting warmed up here. The progressive fight does not end. I am announcing here exclusively that we are starting a new organization called endthecorruption.org. And what the organization is going to do is it's going to focus on key districts like this one, key districts around the country where progressives have a real chance of defeating a Republican and flipping that district. And we're going to give them a financial boost in their election, because all too often this election cycle and in previous election cycles, uncorrupted progressive candidates that have run strong campaigns have just not had the resources they needed to really finish the job. And so I hope people will go to endthecorruption.org. Right now, we actually are just trying to raise money for the startup costs for this. I'm volunteering my time on this, and I also am going to be able to go back and help Wolfpack some more. But what we're going to do is we're going to focus on some key races. We have some startup costs associated with that, online stuff, compliance stuff, and so I hope people can help us out with that.
So Brent, so real quick for the audience to understand, if the Democratic Party views it as a winnable district, which this already was because Hillary Clinton won, as Brent explained, but then Brent had a poll that showed him winning against Kevin Yoder by 7 points. And so instead of then backing the progressive who's already beating the incumbent, the establishment pours in the dark money to defeat the progressive so they could run an establishment person instead. I mean, spending $1 million in a primary is unbelievable. That's the same establishment that says, hey, don't waste money in primaries, but they did it anyway. So you're telling me, Brent, that endofcorruption.org is now going to raise money so that progressives can win those seats instead?
Exactly. Progressives that do not accept corporate PAC money. There's some real great candidates right now. You know, there's just a few that come to mind. Cara Eastman, who's in Omaha, just a few hours north of here, has an incredible race, a winnable race on her hands here in the general. Amar Kampanijjar now with the new situation in his race where his opponent was indicted, I think has a great chance to win that race. James Thompson here in Kansas, of course, Katie Porter in California. There are progressives around the country where if we really rally around them, you know, obviously there's great organizations, you know, a lot of them that supported me, Justice Democrats, PCCC, Progressive Change Campaign Committee, that are helping progressives around the country. And what I want endofcorruption.org to do is just to give a little extra boost to candidates in these real critical districts that the establishment comes after them the fiercest. Because, you know, my race proved we came within 3 points in Kansas, of all places. We proved that you really can run a strong race, even if you don't accept corporate PAC money, if you run as a bold progressive. But, you know, the $1 million that was spent in the last 3 weeks of the primary was just a little bit too much to overcome. And so we're going to rally together with endofcorruption.org to give a boost to candidates in these types of districts.
All right, Brent Welder, thank you for joining us one last time. Endofcorruption.org is the website. We'll obviously have the link down below if you're watching later on YouTube or Facebook. Brent, thank you for joining us, brother. Appreciate it.
Hey, and thank you so much for your support and the support of the entire TYT Army. And I want you guys to know, you know, we are just getting warmed up here. Justice Democrats is less than 2 years old, has been just such a tremendous force across the country and getting so much recognition for the work that everyone's doing. And you know, we're gonna continue the fight here because this is a long-term strategy, and I know we're gonna accomplish great things together. So thank you so much for your help. I really appreciate it.